Mary had a little lamb.
The fault. We believe that all men are created equal.
To the magnificent mosaic that is America.
From radio beacon to radio beacon.
I have a dream today.
Change has come to America.
Believe me.
Help is on the way.
Knock, knock. Who's there?
It's a figment of your imagination.
Randi Rhodes Show. Turn up your mind.
For the year, a contraction in the American economy of 3.5%. It shows you we are far below pandemic levels and a real hole trying to dig out of for the economy heading into this new year. We also saw those weekly jobless claims as we see every Thursday morning, Allison, and those were tough again. 847,000 first-time filings for unemployment benefits. Oh! By my count, this is 45 weeks in a row, Allison, that any one of those weeks would have been an all-time record. But we again and again have record-breaking layoffs every single week, and that has not abated.
Oh, for God's sake.
Hey, everybody, let's do nothing. Happy Monday. Hope you're enjoying the snow if you're in the Northeast. Hope you're drying out if you're in the West. Here in Florida, we think it's cold. We think it's chilly. It's what, 72? 70? Something like that. We think it's freezing. So, take it with a grain of salt what we think. No, that's just weather. Listen, here's the thing. The Republicans have a plan. Yes, I said that because it's an oxymoron. The fact that the Republicans and plan are in the same exact sentence makes it an oxymoron. Do you want to read the Republican plan? Just look at the smirk on Mitch McConnell's face. Just look at the smirk on Rob Portman's face. Just look at the smirk on any Republican who's talking today about, we actually do have a plan to rescue the economy and to tend to this global pandemic that's mutating. It's mutating, everybody, just like the Republican Party. It has mutated. But there is a plan, the Republican plan, and it's to offer a phony plan. Is what it is. They want to do what they always do, delay and dilute, and then don't even vote for it. If we're going to talk about unity, how about unity between the Democrats and the American people? I'll take that unity. I will take that as a unifying direction to move along in. Wouldn't you? Because the Republicans are they're just going to dig their heels in and they're just going to save all the money for the next tax cut to the wealthy. So here is what happened over the weekend. Okay, the Republicans decided, we need to make a counter offer to Biden's $1.9 trillion relief package to help the American people get through what has been just abject neglect on the part of the previous administration, if you want to call it an administration. It was really a man, is what we had. We had one guy who was deciding everything for everybody, and his decisions sucked. And so millions of Americans got infected, cities shut down, rural towns that thought, we're rural, we don't see very many people, it won't affect, got affected. Okay, so now we have this massive pandemic and a need for testing that we never, ever got, ever. A need for a cure, the vaccines, a need for distribution of the vaccines, and a need for economic help, rental assistance, eviction forbearance, increased child tax credits, help schools reopen by giving them the money to, create smaller class pods, right? Instead of 30 in a class, make it 10. They need more room. They need more space. They need to create those things. That costs money. They need to retrofit their ventilation systems. That costs money. Hundreds of billions of dollars for cities and states. Well, what does that fund? That funds the police, everybody. So guess who's trying to defund the police and the paramedics and the school teachers and, every transportation and sanitation. I mean, they won't be happy till we have the bubonic plague and cholera. $160 billion for a national vaccination plan, more testing, public health jobs, an expansion of that. And of course, unemployment, an increase in the unemployment insurance, right? They want to, the Democrats' plan has an initial check of $1,400. That's in addition to the December check of $600, so that it brings the total of direct relief to $2,000. And they also want to increase the amount of enhanced unemployment benefits, which are now $300 and expire in March. It's February, everybody. Happy February. Can you smell the love in the air? I hope that's love. I hope that's Valentine's that I'm smelling and not, But okay, so they want to increase the amount of enhanced unemployment dollars to $400, and they want to extend that payment until September. The Republicans, on the other hand, leave it at $300 and end it in June. I don't know. So we want to do $1,400. The Republicans want to do $1,000. They created this gaping, oozy, pussy gravy sore of a wound. So what is $1,000 for? Salt. Yes, it's salt to pour in your wound, everybody. Good luck with that. So that is their plan, okay? It does not include the rental assistance, the eviction forbearance. It also doesn't include $15 an hour minimum wage, so that when people do go back to work, they can work 40 hours and not be, starving. It has money for WIC. It has money for food stamps. It has money for all kinds of things that help ordinary Americans get through this. The Republicans, not so much. So they got 10 Republicans, which is the bare minimum you would need of Republicans to vote with the Democrats, right? 50 Democrats plus Kamala, so that would be 51, and 10 Republicans would get it over. It would get it to 60. It would actually get it to 61. Actually, it would get it to 60, and Kamala wouldn't have to break a tie, right? So it would still end up at 60. And McConnell sends over like a Susan Collins to make it look like, but we're moderates, and this is moderation. We can't give America a whole lot of money. We can't give it to them. What? 70% of Americans want and need this money. This is everywhere. This is in any poll. This is in every survey of every American household. 70% say they need the money. They need the money now. And that time is of the essence, that this is an urgent need. Okay? So over the weekend, they put out their non-planned plan. And now Biden is meeting with these 10 GOP senators about their non-planned plan for pandemic relief. We can only hope that Biden is telling them, we know what you're up to. We went through this with you on the ACA. We went through this with you on immigration. We went through this with you on the stimulus package in 2009 after you people crashed the economy last time. I can only hope that's because that's what they did in 2009 with endless talks about healthcare reform that were only meant to derail healthcare reform. Well, if you keep a public option out of it, we'll vote for it. All right. We'll keep the public option out of it. They didn't vote for it. If Republicans are talking to you, it's just to distract you while they vandalize and upend your project, whatever it is you're trying to do. So basically, the plan from the Republicans is less than 1/3 of the size of the plan the Democrats say the American people need in order to weather this pandemic. So basically, if you want to say it's they want to cut 2/3 of it out. 2/3. Because the Republicans always have too small of a package. Oh, ask the women. We don't vote for them anymore. The man just ain't big enough. Right, Don Henley? Oh, yes. I was in my hot tub this weekend. And by the way, it's, I'm taunting you because you're having a snowstorm. Oh, it was dreamy. I have to tell you, it was dreamy. And not only did Howard have the hot tub repaired, because it was broken, but put in like almost disco lights. Okay, it's retro. I am loving it. I am freaking loving it. I sat there till I pruned, listening to Don Henley music over and over and over and over. The man just ain't big enough. It's a small, small package. That's why women won't vote for you.
All things Randi at RandiRhodes.com.
Go for launch.
Speaking truth to power, the Randi Rhodes Show.
I know you've seen this morning a group of 10 Republican senators led by Susan Collins, and it includes my next guest, Rob Portman, sent a letter to President Biden. It outlines a proposal for compromise, and in that they're requesting a meeting with President Biden to discuss it. Will that meeting happen?
We've received the letter, and we certainly will be reviewing it over the course of the day. What I will say is that the provisions of the president's plan, the American Rescue Plan, were calibrated to the economic crisis that we face.
Really?
As you know, we just lived through the worst economic year since the demobilization in the wake of World War II. Just this week, 1 million more Americans filed claims for unemployment insurance. 30 million Americans reported they didn't have enough food to eat.
God.
We're in a unique crisis, and the elements of this plan really were designed and are designed to take on that crisis head on. How are we going to get shots in people's arms? How are we going to get schools reopened so parents can get back to work? And how are we going to provide that direct relief to those families and those businesses that are struggling the most? So that's the theory behind the plan. We're certainly open to input from anywhere where we can find a constructive idea to make this package as effective as possible. But the president is uncompromising when it comes to the speed that we need to act at to address this crisis.
Okay, so that is the chairman of the economic advisors, okay? That his name is Brian Deese, and he's the one that said pay now or pay a lot more later. Get the money out the door. Get it out the door. And do it fast. And 30 million, I mean, think about it. Is this supposed to be the greatest country in the history of mankind? 30 million Americans do not have enough food? What kind of a place are we running here? What kind of a joint do we have? I mean, this is so bizarrely unacceptable. This is so heinous. I can't. 30 million Americans don't have enough food to eat. Damn. Okay, so Rob Portman, well, yeah, no, we're not into it.
So, Senator, I have the letter here. It does lay out general ideas, some specifics, but not a lot. Can you give us a ballpark of how much you're willing to spend in this whole package you're proposing?
Yeah, what's your number?
Well, it'll be less than 1.9 because much of what the administration has laid out has nothing to do with COVID-19. And in fact, some of it is not even responsive to the issues that Mr. Deese raised. As an example, with regard to the direct payments, we think they should be much more targeted. $50,000 cap for individuals, for, as an example, $100,000 for a family. And right now, if you look at the administration's plan, you could have a family with 3 kids making almost $300,000 a year getting a check. And many of these people have had no impact from COVID. In fact, some are doing quite well. Others are struggling. Let's focus on those who are struggling. You made the good point a moment ago that all the economic analysis has come in saying that those who make over, let's say, $75,000 a year are tending not to spend the money, but rather save it. In other words, it's not being used for the intended purpose. So let's target it. We really want to help those who need it the most. And at a time of unprecedented deficits and debts, and a debt as a percentage of the economy is as high as it's been in our nation's history since World War II, we need to be sure this is targeted.
Yeah, so the debt now, right on time. You know, there's never an egg timer around when you need one, right? Right on time. Now we've changed presidents. Oh, it's all about the debt and the deficit, but they gave the $2 trillion away to the wealthiest Americans, and now we need to claw it back. It's just that simple. 75 grand, 3 kids. You're rich. You understand that? You're just living large is what you're doing, and you don't get jack from them. Because they have a plan that ain't a plan. Because a Republican plan is an oxymoron. Okay, so their package guts 2/3 of everything that was put together with Americans in mind. Not corporate interests, not stock buyback interests, not bonus plans, not deductions for CEO salary. No, this was done looking at what Americans need to get through this, what the children need to get back to school, what people need with regard to rental assistance, eviction protection, what people need for, cities and states to keep the cops, to keep the EMTs, to keep the transportation running, to keep the cities sanitized, right? And a vaccination plan, a national, and they cut 2/3 of that out of this ridiculous non-plan plan for a total spend of $618 billion. 1.9 trillion now becomes 618. 618. Now, let's move over to a moderate, Senator Jon Tester, okay? Jon Tester is not exactly a wild lib.
Well, look, I think $1.9 trillion, it's a lot of money, but I think the economy is in trouble. Every economist that I've talked to certainly points out that things aren't getting better right now. And I think until we get this virus behind us, this is the way it's going to be. And so I don't think $1.9 trillion, even though it is a boatload of money, is too much money. I think if we're now is not the time to starve the economy. After we get the economy going, then let's look at ways we can pay the debt down. But for right now, businesses need help, working families need help. We need to get folks back to school. We need to get the vaccinations in people's arms. Let's focus on those things and move it forward. And I think that's what this bill does.
Yes, that's what this bill does. He's correct. That is Jon Tester from Montana. I don't think he's a raging, lib that you freaking want to trigger, okay? Every economist says put the money into the economy because what we have here is a consumer-driven economy. You put money in consumers' hands, guess what they're going to do? They're going to buy food. Food. What a tawdry expenditure. Oh, my God. No, we're not buying Hermes bags, okay? Those guys are saving it. Yes, they're saving. Some people saved so that they could pay rent the next month. So that if they got shut down again, they could get through it. I mean, this is crazy. 75 grand, too much. Too much. No, I'm sorry, we're not giving you jack. We need meaningful, effective assistance, and we need it to go to the American people. And when you talk about unity, let's just keep remembering that means between the governing body and the people. That's the unity I'm looking for. These Republicans, unless they defringe themselves, unless they get real serious about purging Q and purging white supremacists and purging from their ranks conspiracy theorists and white nationalists, then I'm not interested in having unity with them because you cannot have unity with white supremacists. What are we going to agree on? That white is not a color? I mean, what are we going to agree on with white supremacists? What are we going to agree on with QAnon conspiracy freaks? Nothing. And until and unless they're willing to do that, there is no unity. You can't get unified with lunatics. I'm so sorry. It just doesn't work. Unity. Get unified with the American people. Get the people all unified around a plan to get vaccines into people, to get testing to people, to get schools open for people, to get eviction forbearance for people, to get rental assistance for people, to get food in their cupboards, the people's cupboards. Corporations are not people. They don't eat.
Call in, connect. To speak to Randi, call 561-270-3844.
561-270-3844. If you pass a piece of legislation that breaks down on party lines, but it gets passed, it doesn't mean there wasn't unity. It just means it wasn't bipartisan. I prefer these things to be bipartisan because I'm trying to generate some consensus and take sort of the how can I say it, the vitriol out of all of this. Unity also is trying to reflect what the majority of the American people, Democrat, Republican, Independent, think is within the fulcrum of what needs to be done to make their lives and the lives of Americans better.
Right.
There is an overwhelming consensus among the major economists at home and in the world that the way to avoid a deeper recession moving in the direction of losing our competitive capacity is to spend money now.
Now.
From across the board, every major institution has said, if we don't invest now, we're going to lose so much altitude in terms of our employment base and our economic growth, it's going to be harder to reestablish it. We can afford to do it now. As a matter of fact, I think the response has been, we can't afford not to invest now.
Now. You know how the Republicans are. You know, Maddow did a really nice little run-through about what happened when Obama first came in, okay? And he was looking for unity, too. He was looking for bipartisan support on everything from banking reform, Dodd-Frank, to the ACA, to the stimulus package that had to go out the door because people were losing their houses and therefore their jobs were just peeling away. And that back then, we were losing 850,000 jobs a month, every single month. Here, we're losing 850,000 jobs a week. Every single week. We celebrate when we only lose 750,000 jobs in a week. Oh, yay, we only lost 750. You know, it's so crazy. And they always say, do this first, and then we'll come on board. We do whatever it is they told us to do. And then they go, sorry, I just can't give you my vote.
When President Obama was first elected, and there were a number of big legislative lifts on the table, right. I feel like as an observer of that process, as somebody reporting on that process, I learned a lesson.
Yes.
I watched with Obamacare, with the Affordable Care Act, the Republicans insisted that there not be any single payer option, there not be a public option, had to be based around the private insurance companies. Right. And they insisted on all these changes that were made for them, and then they didn't vote for it anyway.
Right.
And on the immigration bill, they insisted that their priority, deportations, all that be done up front. President Obama did all that up front, and then they still didn't vote for it. We saw it on the Recovery Act as well. They insisted that the Recovery Act be made smaller and significantly less effective.
Yes.
And then they didn't vote for it anyway.
10 years it took to get, because it wasn't deep enough and strong enough. 10 years. We're not going to make that mistake with COVID.
But isn't the lesson there that it's not worth trying to get bipartisan legislation because it will weaken it and make it worse, and they're never going to vote for it anyway?
Right.
Our North Star has to be the legislation itself. It has to be big and bold and strong.
It does, and it has to be now. It has to be now. When you can report with certainty and facts that 850,000 people applied for unemployment last week, that 20 million people are still getting unemployment benefits of some sort, and that 30 million Americans don't have enough food, now is all you need to think about. Just now.
The issue is not, bipartisanship. We're not. The issue is, are we going to address the incredible set of crises and the pain and the anxiety which is in this country? You know what? I don't care what anybody says. We have got to deal with this pandemic. We have got to make sure that we are producing the vaccines that we need and get those vaccines into the arms of people. We cannot have children in America going hungry, people being evicted, schools not open. We need to open our schools in a safe way. That's what we have to do. So the question is not bipartisanship. The question is addressing the unprecedented crises that we face right now. If Republicans want to work with us, they have better ideas on how to address those crises. That's great. But to be honest with you, I have not yet heard that.
Because they don't. That's the answer. Because anything that's got the word Republican and plan in the same breath, sentence, parenthesis, is an oxymoron. Now, if we move this piece of legislation through budget reconciliation, through that process, most Americans won't even know. They won't even care. They don't care what process, what parliamentary procedure are you going to use. That's important to me right now. No one gives a rat's ass. But if they do move it through reconciliation, the budget reconciliation rules, only 51 votes required, it doesn't mean that Republicans can't vote for it. They can vote for it all day, every day.
People who work in coal especially have heard before that there will be jobs and programs to help them transition to no avail. Why should they believe that this time will be different?
Well, first of all, let me say that the president has been very clear that this is not about any existing leases in terms.
Oh, that's about the oil. Okay, we'll play that in a little bit. What I wanted to play for you is this.
Look, I think that President Biden is doing exactly the right thing. He has put forward an economic plan that is built from the ground up to try to say this is what we need in the economy. He said, I want that plan to pass. And I invite Republicans to join us. And if they do, great. Yeah. And if they don't, we're still going to pass the plan, because his first responsibility as president is to help take care of the families who need it, to get his arms wrapped around this COVID crisis and end it, and to get our schools open. And that's what the plan is all about. Go get them.
Can you imagine? We live in a country called America. America, the United States of America. And our schools are closed, and people are dying every day. At least 1 to 2, sometimes 3 and 4,000 people are dying every single day from a disease for which we have a vaccine at this point. Schools are closed. People can't work. People don't have enough food on the table. How is this okay? How is this okay with Republicans? And it is. Well, we're going to gut 2/3 of the relief that you want to send to the American people. We're going to just gut it because, frankly, we've done enough for them. This is not the time. I heard that this weekend on the Sunday shows. This is not the time. We have to, play with the bill. We have to play with it. And we have to take 2/3 of the money that Biden wants to spend out of it and give only a pittance to people, and only to the people that aren't making a penny over $50,000 a year. The poorest Americans, okay? Can't do anything for the middle class that may not be able to work remotely to do their jobs. They work with their hands. They build things. They paint things. They tile things. No, we don't care about them. Oh, my God. These are some of the most deranged, cruel, clueless bubble people I have ever seen. But this was always how they governed. They always governed for the elite. They always governed for the wealthy. They always governed for those who need protection from lawsuits for, killing their workers or damaging their workers or getting their workers sick. That's who they governed for.
This is the Randi Rhodes Show. To speak with Randi, dial 561-270-3844. That's 561-270-3844.
The president and I are really clear. We can't continue this way, and we've got to work with a sense of urgency. And so we're offering the American Rescue Plan that's about opening schools back up in a safe way. It's about getting support for small businesses, getting relief for families. So many people have been unemployed for almost a year at this point, hardworking folks who have lost their jobs through no fault of their own. And the president and I feel very strongly that these are the moments when we are facing a crisis of unbelievable proportion, that the American people deserve their leaders to step up and stand up for them.
The plan includes things like $1,400 checks for each person in a household, expanded unemployment benefits, and it would mount a national vaccination program. West Virginia has been leading the nation when it comes to actually getting shots in arms. Earlier this week, President Biden said that distribution would be based on a state's population. West Virginia is a small state with one of the oldest and most vulnerable populations. So is basing the distribution on a state's population fair, especially when small states like West Virginia are efficiently getting people vaccinated?
Yeah.
Our plan is to get everybody vaccinated.
Really?
Without any question. So our plan was and remains that for the first 100 days of our administration, 100 million vaccinations will be performed. But listen, that's why we have the American Rescue Plan, because we have over 320 million people in our country. It's that, and it's more. It's also about looking at the rates of child poverty in our country that have been highlighted and have grown exponentially because of the fact that their parents are now unemployed. And so our American Rescue Plan is also about lifting children out of poverty.
So I didn't even understand. Okay, so that was local West Virginia television, WSAZ. I have to say, I did not understand the anchor's question. I don't know if she's an anchor or a reporter, because I don't have access to WSAZ on a regular basis. But why would you ask if you should be allocated more vaccine than your population requires? I didn't even understand that question, okay? Because the answer is clearly you get the vaccine that you need to inoculate your population, right? So smaller state, smaller number. I just didn't. But anyway, I have to tell you, Joe Manchin, the Democrat from West Virginia, he was shocked and appalled that Kamala Harris went on West Virginia local TV to get the word out that there was a rescue package that we needed every single Democrat to vote for, and then Kamala could break the tie if we did it through reconciliation. He was not pleased. He was pissed.
Democratic U.S. Senator Joe Manchin spent time Friday checking out one of West Virginia's COVID-19 vaccination clinics, just a day after Vice President Kamala Harris joined WSAZ for an exclusive interview to talk about the proposed American Rescue Plan.
I saw it. I couldn't believe it. No one called me. We're going to try to find a bipartisan pathway for it. I think we need to, but we need to work together. That's not a way of working together, what was done.
She's a Democrat. You're a Democrat. What is wrong with him? What is wrong with him? He actually said he was pissed. Really, he said he was pissed that she went on West Virginia television. So I think we figured something out here. This is what we need to do. We need to go on local television stations. Joe Biden does. Kamala Harris does. The communications people from the Biden administration do. The health people need to go on local TV. See, that seems to be the way to unnerve people who don't communicate regularly with their constituents. What are you talking about, Joe? She's a Democrat, you're a Democrat. At least there's a D after your name and then dash West Virginia. But what are you talking? Oh, my God. Len in Pennsylvania.
Hi. First time, very long time. Anyway, love your work. And we were promised from Letitia James, Southern District of New York, indictments, many indictments, as many as 60 on January 21st.
Who told you that?
And we still haven't. Huh?
Who told you that? She's prosecuting civilly money crimes, money, not criminal.
Money crimes of Trump and the whole.
Yeah, but civil, not criminal.
Okay, so they're civil, but where are the indictments?
So there are no indictments in a civil case. There's cases that are brought in civil court.
So why haven't the cases been brought?
Well, apparently they're not ready.
But she said for months previous to the 21st that she was ready on the 21st.
I never heard that.
I heard it often on CNN, MSNBC, Rachel, everybody.
No, call them.
Okay.
All right. Because she's doing civil cases, meaning she's trying to recover money. She's not looking for criminal indictments of people whose liberty she wishes to take away in exchange for crimes. See, it ain't that. That's not what Letitia James is doing. If you're looking for criminal cases, then you got to look to, what's his face? The one that let Cyrus Vance Jr., the one that let...
But her cases are for tax fraud.
What's the guy I'm thinking of that was abusing all those women in Hollywood?
Weinstein.
Yes. So the Cyrus Vance Jr., who was the prosecutor in the Weinstein matter, failed to prosecute Weinstein. He does criminal. She is doing civil. There's a difference. You know, in criminal cases, the penalty is you could lose your freedom. You could get, you go to jail or you have community service or whatever, right? But in a civil case, the remedy is money. You pay money.
And if you can't pay money, you got to do the time, I would think.
No, you don't.
Especially in tax fraud.
No, it doesn't. It doesn't work like that. So if you are civilly fined or you owe money to somebody because the jury found that you owe that money, then you have to pay that money. And if you don't, then there's a separate case, not connected to the first case, okay? That is a criminal case because you didn't pay.
Okay, I just haven't heard any news that I felt was promised on the 21st.
I don't know what you're talking about, the 21st. 21st of what? January?
Of January, the day after inauguration, she was to bring down indictments or charges against the whole crime family.
There's no... This is not...
Tax fraud, etc.
Okay. It's not a criminal case.
Okay.
All right. Not a criminal case. Civil case. Danny in Arkansas.
Hi, Randy. Long-time listener, first-time caller. Thank you, ma'am. I have a pretty simple question. I voted Democrat all my life. Can you hear me, ma'am?
Uh-huh.
I voted Democrat all my life, and my question is as taxpayers, why are they not wanting to give us our money?
Right. Good question.
Oh, good question. Thank you.
You're welcome.
I cannot fathom Republicans at all, but I just can't understand the people I'm also a Vietnam veteran.
Thank you.
But I cannot understand why it's our money that we've paid in and employers have paid in, and they don't want to come off of it to help us.
Well, see, that's the thing with the GOP, okay? That's the thing with the grand old party. They have no American people agenda. They have an agenda for corporate. They have an agenda for wealthy. They have an agenda for billionaires, hedge fund managers, CEO salaries, deductible, right? They have an agenda that is so putrid for the American people. And when they can't sell their putrid agenda to the American people, guess what they do, Danny? They play the race card. They start pointing at others. The other is doing it to you. No, the Republican Party is doing it to you. What did they think was going to happen? Now, what's really creepy is because they are so good at telling people that there's someone else responsible for their frustration. Someone else is responsible for their inability to get ahead. Someone is responsible that's brown or black or Chinese or Indonesian or whatever they want to pick on, Mexican. They're very good at selling that instead of having an agenda for the American people. And so when people get frustrated, and they're right to be frustrated, that this government does not answer to the American people, for some strange reason, this race stuff is so powerful that they then turn on the Democratic Party.
You are absolutely correct, and I want to thank you for taking my call, and you have my utmost respect and love.
Oh, equally, thank you. Igualmente. Seriously, dude, they're just so good at selling bull.
Mary had a little man.
The fault. We believe that all men are created equal.
To the magnificent mosaic that is America. From radio beacon to radio beacon. I have a dream. Change has come to America. Believe me. Help is on the way.
Knock, knock. Who's there?
It's a figment of your imagination.
Randi Rhodes Show. Turn up your mind.
A last-minute legal team now coming together for former President Trump just days before his impeachment trial. Two attorneys will defend him against the charge he incited an insurrection at the Capitol January 6th. David Schoen, who represented Trump confidant Roger Stone and also consulted with Jeffrey Epstein not long before Epstein's death. And Bruce Castor, a former district attorney in Pennsylvania, perhaps best known for declining to prosecute Bill Cosby back in 2005. Their hiring, capping a scramble set off after at least three other attorneys in talks to defend Donald Trump parted ways with him instead, in part because the former president insisted they push his false claims of election fraud during the trial, according to two sources familiar with the discussions.
Trump's entire legal team quit over the weekend. I'm guessing they Googled him. This is what I'm getting. We didn't know him. We had no idea who he was. So we didn't know what we signed up for. Then we Googled him. Is that the deal? Is that what happened? I don't know. They say that the lawyers quit because, this was Butchie. Remember Butchie? Butch Bowers. So that came from Lindsey Graham. Lindsey Graham said, I'll get you a lawyer. I'll get you one, sir. I'll get you a lawyer. And he got Butch Bowers. Apparently Butch has the Google machine, and he Googled Donald Trump and said, "Oh, I can't do that. I can't. I'm not gonna argue that the election was stolen." 65 courts said it wasn't. 50 state secretaries of state certified the results. It wasn't. I can't lie to the court. I'll lose my law license. And for what? For you? I'm not doing that. Now, we all know that you have to, if you're going to be a lawyer, you have to hang your reputation up in order to defend Donald Trump. But it turns out that in order to defend Donald Trump, you also have to end your connection to reality. Yes, you have to go live in his head. And they were not willing to do the lying or the living in his head.
If a defense lawyer believes he is being made to make an argument that is either a lie or dangerous or unethical, that's where you see resignations like this. So I think it makes a lot of sense. Look, if President Trump said to these lawyers, and by all appearances, they're legitimate lawyers, several of them are DOJ alums, one of them's an ethics expert. If President Trump said, I want you to go out there and argue this election was stolen, they have every right, and they did the right thing to say, no, we're out.
Ellie, let me stay with you for this, because we all knew, they knew, everybody knew that the president told this lie that the election had been stolen from him. He did that from the night of the returns started to come in, and they joined the team anyway. What does that tell you about how central that lie he wanted to be part of the case that they were making? It couldn't be just a part of it, because they knew that would be something he wanted it to happen, that he wanted that maybe to be the central element.
Yeah, Victor, he's sticking with it. Look, it could be, if I was a lawyer in that situation, if the president came to me, former president, and said, I'd like you to represent me, I would probably say something like, I'm not doing that big lie thing. Look, I'll argue constitutionality all day long. Maybe I'll argue that your speech that you gave there didn't quite step over the line of the First Amendment. I don't agree with those arguments, but I think they're fair play. But if he said to me, no, you're going to get up there and you're going to rant and rave about this election was stolen, rigged, I would say, no, I'm out. I would do exactly what these lawyers did. And by the way, the Senate does not have to allow this defense. Real judges in real trials all the time say to defense lawyers, you cannot argue that. That's not a proper defense. The Senate controls how this impeachment trial goes. They need to think hard about whether they want to even countenance that sort of a lie as a defense.
Interesting point, Ellie Honig. But now he's got these new lawyers, and these new lawyers have sordid histories with Jeffrey Epstein and Bill Cosby. Couldn't they find anybody connected to Harvey Weinstein too? I'm just not even. So these lawyers are already tainted with their associations with the mafia. Yeah, they're mob lawyers, or one of them is. Mr. Schoen, I believe, brags, he has bragged about his representation of the biggest mafiosos in the history of the world: Russian mafia, Italian mafia, global mafia. He's very proud of this. So these lawyers have a reputation that's already tainted, and now we find out that Schoen visited Epstein in jail. I think he wanted to represent him in some weird way. I don't know, but he said he's one of these guys. Epstein was killed. He believes that. They also have a attorney general who refused to charge Bill Cosby, and then after he refused to charge Bill Cosby, same thing with the Weinstein case, right? That was Cyrus Vance Jr. in New York that failed to prosecute Weinstein. There's a different guy, but all of a sudden, all these women came forward. And, of course, Cosby was convicted. He's in jail right now. And no matter what they have done, agreeing to represent these murderers, these people, their reputations are now ruined because they're going to represent Trump, and Trump wants to tell the big lie as his defense. Now, Rudy was on the Steve Bannon show. I think it was Friday. And Rudy is, I swear, he's loopy. He needs help. I swear to God. I don't, you know, talk space, I'm guessing, is like ready for you, Rudy. They're loopy. He's still sticking to his story that Antifa, and now he's added another accusation to the Antifa that did the riot. The Antifa did the insurgency. Antifa tried to overthrow the government, swear to God. But he's now saying not only was it Antifa and not QAnons and not white nationalists and not the Oath Keepers and not the Proud Boys and not the Boogaloo Boys and not the 3 Percenters. No, not the white supremacists, not the Q, not the crazy. No, it was the Lincoln Project. No, I swear. And so now the Lincoln Project has given Rudy until this Wednesday to apologize and take it back, or they're going to sue him right along with Dominion, who's suing Rudy and Sidney Powell for $1.3 billion for the lies they told about their company.
Oh, the defense is going to have to show that this thing was planned and that a lot of the people involved in the planning, Antifa, and then even some right-wing groups were enemies of his, and that they were doing it in order to hurt him. Including some right-wing groups that operate for the Lincoln Project.
What?
Or have been working with the Lincoln Project at various times. You have a couple of wolves and sheep.
Hold it. Hang on. What? Whoa. What do you say working for the Lincoln Project? Right-wing groups like who?
One of the people who organized this is well known for having worked with the Lincoln Project in the past, and also.
Okay, but who is it? But Rudy, we can't.
That he helped to bring. You gotta let me finish this.
Okay.
So
Go ahead.
One of the people involved brought in right-wing groups that opposed Trump, and he brought them in specifically because he wanted to blow this thing up. He had the same motivation. He had the same motivation the Antifa people had. So it isn't as if all these right-wing groups were all pro-Trump. And the biggest problems, violent problems, were caused by Antifa. That's where the shooting took place. That was surrounded by all Antifa people. So how can he be held responsible for a whole thing that's planned days before he's going to speak, that has a mixture of people that hate him and people that support him? He's not.
So
responsible.
Who's the guy?
How can he possibly
who's the guy? Who's the guy working with the Lincoln Project?
He's a. I don't know if I can reveal his name, because we have that from anonymous sources. But he worked in the past. He worked in the past for Randi.
Even Bannon's not buying this bull. And now the Lincoln Project has threatened to sue Rudy for defamation unless he takes it back.
All things Randi at RandiRhodes.com.
Go for launch.
Speaking truth to power, the Randi Rhodes Show.
Okay, here's Jamie Raskin. He will be the impeachment manager at the trial next week.
Given the fact that we know some of this was planned, now we're getting an indication from law enforcement that some of the people were not incited that morning. They were incited in previous weeks and months. Does that affect your case?
Well, of course, the fact that it was deliberated and planned and premeditated underscores the leadership and the complicity of Donald Trump in all of these events. He was out propagandizing his followers, as you say, for months, first to prepare them that his loss would have to be a fraud. There's no way otherwise he could have lost, and then to attack the election results. And some of that took place in utterly freakishly absurd ways, like 61 lawsuits, all of which were thrown out and rejected and repudiated by judges, a lot of them Trump-appointed judges. But then it turned to egging on a mob.
Right.
As Liz Cheney put it, assembling the mob, convoking the mob, inciting the mob.
But all of it will be part of the trial.
The entire stream of events leading up to this attack on the Capitol. Now, understand, January 6th is not a random date. It wasn't like the president said, well, maybe we'll do it November 11th, or maybe I'll call everybody to town December 2nd. Maybe I'll tell them it'll be wild for December 9th, or tell the Proud Boys to stand back and stand by for December 14th. No, January 6th is the day set in the Electoral Count Act in coordination with the 12th Amendment of the Constitution for Congress to meet in bipartisan session, in bicameral session, all of the members there together to count the Electoral College votes. And this is supposed to be a ministerial pro forma kind of action where we count the electoral votes sent in by the states. We know that the president brought enormous pressure to bear on Vice President Pence to step out of his constitutional oath and outside of his constitutional role simply to reject the results that President Trump didn't like.
Yeah.
And Vice President Pence refused to do it, which is why there was a mob that came within seconds of catching him yelling, "Hang Mike Pence." And then it turned to exhorting the mob, saying, go and fight like hell or you're going to lose your country.
Yeah, and the crazy Q people, they actually believed that there would be mass arrests that day of the people in the Capitol. They thought that the Democrats were going to get arrested and that there would be this moment of reckoning. All they had to do was go and create, an insurrection, and then Donald Trump would take over from there. And he would declare martial law and then reinstall himself as president. And then QAnon would have been right, that they trusted the plan, right? They trusted the plan. And all these pedophiles, which there's another GOP pedophile today. I don't know if you know about it, but this guy Weaver, John Weaver, who is a GOP strategist, a long-time Republican strategist, he's been sending messages to 14-year-old boys for a really long time, and 21 men have accused him of, online harassment, of asking, sexual solicitations, asking them, about their body types and, what do they do, and, telling them they look older and they've gotten taller and are you still in high school and, want to come to Vegas. I'll take you to dinner. I'll buy you drinks. I'll spoil you. Hey, my boy, resend me your stats or I can guess if that is easier and more fun. There's so many people in the GOP that are just bizarrely interested in pedophilia. But anyway, that's another one of those crazy things where their agenda for the American people sucks so hard that they can't sell it because they don't really have one for us. They have one for their donor class. They have one for private prisons. They have an agenda for tax evaders. They have an agenda for offshore companies that want to offshore their factories or offshore their profits or hide their money in the Cayman. They have, policies for them, but nothing for us. And because they can't sell it, their agenda, the GOP, they just make up this swill. They just make up anything. And the more you know about QAnon, the more you understand that there's nothing new in any of their crazy, wacky conspiracies. These are old tropes. These are all old anti-Semitic tropes. Everything to do, and that's why Donald Trump calls COVID the plague, right? Because that goes back to, the Jews were putting dead frogs in the water and giving people the plague. I mean, they just pull and choose from from the John Birch Society's racism and, just all of the anti-Semitic, anti-black, anti-racial progress, all of this, fear, they feed it to their base, right? Because they can't sell their agenda to them. I mean, if they had a decent agenda to end the frustration of the old white working man, because when you look at these people, for the most part, they're old white guys. They're in their 60s or their 50s. And you find out things like they never voted. They don't vote. They just were looking for something to, latch on to, something to fill the boredom, something to ease the boredom, to amuse it. And they found it going down these rabbit holes of, crazy conspiracy theories. And the only reason why they stand by people like Marjorie Taylor Greene, who is, one of the most Q of the Qs, okay, she's just crazy. and is willing to do violence to prove that this conspiracy theory is true and it's false. Every single thing that they predicted or it predicted or he predicted would happen has not happened. None of it will ever happen because it's garbage. But it gave them an amusement. It gave them a puzzle. It gave them something to do to occupy their frustrated minds. And that's what the Republican Party prefers that their base thinks about and works on. Because if the base ever came to the truth, if they ever confronted the truth, if they ever heard the truth, if they ever understood the truth, they would understand that that party that they support is the very one that's doing it to them. And in this weird way, they have Stockholm Syndrome. They have fallen in love with their kidnappers. It's really sick. It's really, really twisted, okay? I mean, this was pre-planned and organized. And now we found out, that they had maps, okay? These crazy people, they had maps. They had maps that showed the U.S. Capitol and the tunnels below them that were connecting the different parts of the complex. The name of the map was called Create Perimeter. This is according to an FBI report from Norfolk. You remember when Norfolk, Virginia put out this alert that they were alarmed by the online conversations they were seeing, and we started looking at Norfolk, and what did the FBI there know? Well, they got hold of maps that were being passed around on their encrypted, apps. There was one called MAGA Cavalry to connect Patriot caravans to stop the steal. That was a map. And another one showed the tunnels. That one was called Create Perimeter. And the messages they were sending to each other: be ready to fight. Congress needs to hear glass breaking, doors being kicked in. And they were meeting all over the country. In Louisville they met, in Columbia, South Carolina, in Springfield, Massachusetts. Okay, and it was all organized.
Call in, connect. To speak to Randi, call 561-270-3844. 561-270-3844.
Okay, now, have you guys been following 4chan?
Oh, God.
Q, any of that stuff? Anybody? I'm going to watch for your comments here. Okay, so we posted an article just a few days ago about who is Q. We posted that on American Truth Seekers.
American Truth Seekers.
There has been a lot of chatter. I don't know how much you guys know about Q. It's an anonymous person. All right, so Q is a patriot. We know that for sure, but we do not know who Q is, okay? So now the question is, I'm going to talk about this, and I'm going to tell you I don't know who Q is, but I'm just going to tell you about it because I think it's something worth listening to and paying attention to. Okay, and the reason why is because many of the things that he has given clues about and talked about on 4chan and other forums have really proven to be true. Okay, so there's some really interesting things about this person Q. All right, so I want to tell you a little bit some of the interesting things about it, and I'm going to pull up the article that we put up because some of them are in there. Let me get it here for you. Okay, now there's a couple of things that happened. One of them was when Q signs off, he puts 3 little crosses in a row, 3 little crosses, and that's how he signed off. Now, he signed off with 3 crosses in a row on November 6th, and within a matter of minutes, President Trump, in his tweet right after that on November 6th, he put, it was 7 minutes later, Trump put 3 little crosses on his tweet. And it was not, it was just more than a coincidence. It was really interesting.
Yeah, because Michael Flynn is Q, okay? I'm just saying. So last night, Anderson Cooper interviewed a guy who went down these rabbit holes and had big fun, doing it, and really believed in it, to the point where he actually believed this Q person, okay, Michael Flynn, who wanted to do damage to CNN, went after Anderson Cooper and started positing conspiracy theories about Anderson Cooper's entire freaking family, that they were Satanists, that they ate babies. Yeah. And he apologized last night to Anderson.
Did you at the time believe that high-level Democrats and celebrities were worshiping Satan, drinking the blood of children?
Anderson, I thought you did that. And I would like to apologize for that right now. So I apologize for thinking that you ate babies. But yeah, 100%.
You actually believe that I was drinking the blood of children?
Yes, I did.
Was it something about me that made you think that?
It's because Q specifically mentioned you, and he mentioned you very early on. He mentioned you by name, and from there, if he also talked about, like, for example, like your family. But yeah, and I'm gonna be honest, like, people still talk about that to this day. There were posts about that just 4 days ago.
Oh my God.
So some people thought you were a robot.
You really believed this?
I didn't just believe that. I, at one stage, believed that QAnon was part of military intelligence, which is what he says. But on top of that, the people behind them were actually a group of fifth-dimensional, intradimensional, extraterrestrial, bipedal bird aliens called blue avians. I was so far down in this conspiracy black hole that I was essentially picking and choosing whatever narrative that I wanted to believe in.
Wow. You got to be like super, super bored. You got to be like so bored to just keep on following all these, little breadcrumbs, as they call them, to get to the point where you think that Anderson Cooper and his mother, his deceased mother, Gloria Vanderbilt, are satanic baby eaters. I don't even... Okay, listen. This goes back to every single right-wing lunatic fringe conspiracy theory going back to the 50s, going before that into the 30s, people that didn't want to get involved in World War II, people before that, the Elders of Zion. I mean, this is every single piece of every single sick, twisted conspiracy theory that the Republican Party, the John Birchers, people before America First is a Nazi. It's an homage to American fascists. Okay, Lindbergh actually created it. Reagan used it. Now Trump uses it. This is because that party has never offered a shred of decent policy to any of its supporters. And so instead of offering decent policy to its supporters, they stigmatize, they, get people to vote based on rage and fear and hatred. They find that very useful because their agenda has nothing to do with working people. It has nothing to do with white men. It has nothing to do with white women. It has nothing to do for blacks. It has nothing to do, right? And so they constantly feed narratives like they're all communists. There's a communist hiding under every rock, or it's a zero-sum game. If you give someone the right to vote, that necessarily means they're taking away your right to vote, which makes no sense. See, so they can't really just come out and sell their agenda. So they sell racism and fear and hatred and extreme thought, because they don't really think democracy is something that could work for the very, very well-connected. Because democracy is the will of the people, choosing representation and then having those representatives represent the will of the people. They don't like democracy all that much. They don't like progress. They don't like racial progress especially. And so what they feed their people is this endless spew, Christian identity politics, and inequality is a good thing for you. Racial justice is a bad thing for you. The truth is a lie. The lie is the truth. War is peace sometimes. I mean, George Bush just said it right out there. Sometimes war is peace sometimes. You don't have to buy a crappy house. Go borrow yourself into oblivion, right? So, it's very old. But so is the Republican agenda. It's very old. They're one-trick ponies, man. They're one-trick ponies. And so this whole crazy thing that we're being put through, and by the way, there's news about Marjorie Taylor Greene. They're giving McCarthy just like till Wednesday to remove her from the Education Committee, and the Budget Committee, or they're going to vote her out.
This is the Randi Rhodes Show. To speak with Randi, dial 561-270-3844. That's 561-270-3844.
This is an important time in our history. We can't allow this just to be gone, just to let it go. You can't allow it to just transfer power peacefully like Joe Biden wants and allow him to become our president, because he did not win this election. It's being stolen, and the evidence is there. The mainstream media for 4 years talked about Russian collusion, conspiracy theories, and lies, and demanded investigations nonstop into Russian collusion.
Yeah, but you thought that Robert Mueller was on your side. You thought Mueller was investigating pedos. That's what QAnon, and the crazy thing about QAnon, okay, is that nothing they ever said or believed that Q was saying ever came true.
All right, so this one thing he's saying, which I alluded to earlier, but I'm not sold on it, but Q keeps saying this, is that the special counsel, Robert Mueller, is not a corrupt investigation. Q says that he's doing the job properly under the guise of investigating the Trump team. So it may really be true if all the signs are leading that way, that maybe Robert Mueller is leading this investigation, saying that he's looking into Trump-Russian collusion, but really, he's really looking into a lot of other very bad criminals that need to be taken down. All right, so that's something that Q says. Now, this is, in order to do that, if they do that, the purpose of it is to lower the guard of people like Hillary Clinton, Podestas, all these different people that are in the swamp. They've got to do that so that they believe that Robert Mueller is really going after Trump and his people, but yet, in the meantime, all along, he's really going after the Clintons, okay? And everyone tied into them. Okay, so if that's true, it's brilliant.
Oh, it's brilliant. Marjorie Taylor Greene, it's just brilliant. And of course, when none of it comes true, when everything turns out to be a giant game, a hoax that was played on this group of people in chat rooms and on 4chan and, then all of a sudden, we have to fight. Now we have to get violent.
I think the greatest message I can have for them is now is the time to pick up the mantle, move it forward, wear your MAGA hat. This isn't going anywhere. Not at all. We're only beginning to fight. We are going to defend our Constitution, our freedoms, and we are going to drive as hard as we can to fight for America First policies and continue President Trump's legacy, while the Democrats, the media, big tech, and even these Republicans or they call themselves Republicans, try to burn it down. They're trying to burn down everything President Trump has done.
She's a wackadoodle. So the Dems delivered an ultimatum to the Republicans today. They said that if you don't force Marjorie Taylor Greene off of the committee assignments that you've given her, and by the way, here's a woman who says that school shootings were crisis actors, that 17 kids at Marjorie Stoneman Douglas did not die, that elementary school kids at Sandy Hook did not die, that this was all faked and it was just a crisis actor that set up. They said if you put this woman on the education committee, okay, if you don't take her off the education committee, she's also on the House Budget Committee, which is really strange, that they are going to, within 72 hours, they're going to bring the issue to the House floor, and they're going to take a vote to either censure her and remove her from her committee assignments, a la Steve King from Iowa, or they're going to move to expel her. Now, expulsion takes 3/4. It takes 2/3 of the House. With the crazy people that are there, the Andy Biggs, the Paul Gosars, the Matt Getzes, the Stephen Kings, we're not going to be able to get 2/3 to expel her. But this is a woman that does not belong serving in Congress. This is a woman who belongs in a Whole Foods or a Trader Joe's, wearing a MAGA hat, without a mask, screaming at people. That's where she belongs. That is what she is fit and qualified to do. But you see, the way that they get here, the way that they get to Congress now, is primaries. You understand that, right? All they have to do is win a Republican primary in a predominantly Republican district like hers in Northwest Georgia. And it takes money, and that is what Donald Trump must have told Meadows when he went down to Mar-a-Lago. He told him, what do you think, all this money I raised by screaming this election was fake? You think I believed it was fake? I never believed it was fake. I just knew I lost, and this was my last chance to raise an enormous amount of money. So I raised hundreds of millions of dollars. And guess what I'm going to do? I'm going to pay off my legal bills with it, and then I'm going to sidle up to the craziest of the crazies, the Marjorie Taylor Greens. She's a freshman congresswoman. She's already met with Donald Trump repeatedly, okay? She's going to come down to Florida. He loves her. He's called her out by name 8,000 times, a Q lady, right? To signal to these crazy people that he's with them in this John Bircher racist conspiracy theory, right? And he's going to fund these people. The crazier, the better. The more sullied, the better. The dirtier they are, the better. The more trouble they've been in, the better. He's going to fund them, and he's going to put them into Congress. He's going to let them win primaries, and then because of the gerrymandered district, they'll just cruise on in. And that's how he's going to continue to burn down this country. It's going to be his legacy. Funding backcrap crazy people. That's what the Republicans are afraid of. When they say they're afraid of Donald Trump, they're not afraid of Donald Trump. They're afraid of Donald Trump's money and his love affair with the crazier, the dirtier, the better, the more I like you, the more I fund you. Electing this man was the greatest error in judgment anybody ever made. Now, I admit people wanted to try something different. A lot of the voters decided it's not working. There's no agenda for the middle class. So I'm going to give him a shot. A reality TV star. It was an error. Born out of pure frustration. Dion in Chicago.
Hello.
Hello.
Hey, Randy, how you living? I hope you are well.
I am.
I am one of your biggest fans. We go back all the way to the start of Air America in Chicago, and I want to let you know that you are spot on your work, and my wife Sharon and I support you 100%.
Yeah, well, you could call that WCPT up there and tell them.
That's right.
And tell
that's right. That's right.
Put the show back on.
Yes, and I can't wait for the day. But listen, I am one of the chairs of the Illinois Poor People's Campaign, and we are fighting for the exact same things you talk about every day. Equitable
distribution.
Criminal justice.
Yes, equitable racial justice, equitable distribution of our wealth.
Yes. It's all connected, and so I just wanted to thank you. Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you for volunteering. Thank you for doing that hard work. That is hard work.
Yeah, it is. It is, but it's worth every minute.
It is.
Every minute.
It is, and I love that you have a purpose in your life. I love purpose-driven lives. I think that they're important, and I think that you got this down, so thank you very much. But don't forget, one of the things you need to do is call that WCPT in Chicago? And tell them to put the show back on. Karen in Oregon. Yeah.
Hi, Randy. Oh,
Hi.
my God, you caught me off guard. Yeah, they need to put the show back on.
Yeah.
Listen, I wish that Joe Manchin would understand what the Republican Party is doing and that he would quit acting like one.
I honestly do not know. How do you build unity with a party that supports an insurgency?
Right.
Who protects
I tweeted
it?
him this morning. Yeah, I tweeted Joe this morning, and I said, look, you've been acting like a Republican since Joe Biden got in office. Kamala Harris has every right to go over to West Virginia, and she has every right to go to Arizona.
Yeah.
And it's just like you said, his constituents need to know what's going on with him the last couple of weeks here.
Yeah, I agree with you. I mean, listen, I'm sure he's a perfectly gentle man. But the truth of the matter is that there is no, I mean, how do you reach across and dance in unity with people who are protecting insurgents, terrorists, domestic terrorists, white supremacists, white Christian identity politico? I mean, I'm sorry, Joe, it can't happen. Your unity needs to be with your constituents, with your state, with your people. That's where my unity is. It's with Americans and American people who work really hard.
Mary had a little man. The fault. We believe that all men are created equal.
To the magnificent mosaic that is America. From radio beacon to radio beacon. I have a dream. Change has come to America.
Believe me. Help is on the way.
Knock, knock. Who's there?
It's a figment of your imagination.
Randi Rhodes Show. Turn up your mind.
Overnight, House Republicans huddling behind closed doors for hours, grappling over what to do about freshman Congresswoman Marjorie Taylor Greene, who shared anti-Semitic posts and embraced false QAnon conspiracy theories, even implying 9/11 was a hoax and that deadly school shootings were staged. In that meeting, NBC News has learned Greene apologized for some of her past comments, receiving applause from some of her colleagues. The top House Republican, Kevin McCarthy, declining to take action against Greene, speaking out late Wednesday.
I denounce all those comments that were brought up. She came inside our conference and denounced them as well. She said she was wrong.
But Greene has not publicly denounced those statements, instead raising money off the controversy as Democrats condemn her conduct.
Marjorie Taylor Greene is totally out of control. As a QAnon caucus leader, sympathizer.
Greene defiantly tweeting at her critics, "We owe them no apologies. We will never back down." McCarthy posting a statement saying he told Greene we have a responsibility to hold ourselves to a higher standard than how she presented herself as a private citizen, while accusing Democrats of a partisan power grab for today's vote to remove Greene from her committee assignments.
The voters decided she could come and serve.
The House GOP also eyeing the future of their party, voting to keep Liz Cheney in her post as the third highest ranking Republican. Cheney under fire for supporting the impeachment of former President Trump, one of only 10 Republicans to do so. But in a secret ballot vote by a 145 to 61 margin, Cheney's colleagues had her back, fending off calls from Trump loyalists for her removal.
That we're not going to be divided and that we're not going to be in a situation where people can pick off any member of leadership.
Oh, for God's sake.
Seriously, so they have to vote in secret. Secret, everybody. They have to vote in secret for Liz Cheney. Doesn't this tell you everything? They voted on whether or not to expel Liz Cheney from the conference chairmanship, but they haven't voted on Marjorie Taylor Greene. Doesn't that tell you everything you need to know about the GOP and where they are right now? That they have been infiltrated with lunatics and fringy people and white supremacists and 3%ers and Q ladies and oh my God, we're gonna. You know how we spell Karen with a Q? We're going to spell Kevin with a Q now, too. Kevin McCarthy is now Q-E-V-I-N, McCarthy, okay? Maybe he's just Q curious. Maybe. Oh, so now we're supposed to accept Marjorie Taylor Greene was just Q adjacent when she was asking questions to the internet. about whether or not those kids were killed in Sandy Hook, about whether or not the kids were killed in at Marjorie Stoneman Douglas here in Florida, Parkland. They would just, she was just Q adjacent. She just had questions, and so she found the answers on the internet. Just Q curious, everybody, is what it is. And this is what she told the conference, according to Kevin with a Q last night. And they gave her a standing ovation, a standing O. What? So here's where they're hanging their hat. Okay, they're hanging their hat on this. She was just curious, and she had questions that she needed answers to. So she of course turned to 4chan, because who doesn't? See, that's where she was. Okay, she just turned to 4chan, and oh, by the way, as soon as she became a member of the GOP, let's spell caucus with a Q, she stopped. She stopped doing that. That's what he said.
Nothing that she said has been based upon since she's been a member of Congress. And the voters decided she could come and serve. When she sent and denounced all those, inside our chambers,
apologize for her past comments.
That's exactly what she did.
Publicly, though,
that's what she did inside our conference.
Do Democrats deserve to hear that same apology that she delivered?
Well, I think everybody should hear that. And she has expressed that she has put it out from news agencies and others. I think it would be helpful if you could hear exactly what she told all of us, denouncing QAnon. I don't know if I say it right. I don't even know what it is. Any from the shootings. She said she knew nothing about lasers or all the different things that have been brought up about her. And so from that perspective, she's now a member. If we are now going to start judging what other members have said before they're even members of Congress, I think it's going to be a hard time for the Democrats to place anybody on committee.
You do? You do? I don't. First of all, it's a lie, okay? She has said insurrectionist Q crap after she was elected. Here. This one here.
This is an important time in our history. We can't allow this just to be gone, just to let it go. You can't allow it to just transfer power peacefully like Joe Biden wants and allow him to become our president, because he did not win this election. It's being stolen and the evidence is there. The mainstream media for 4 years talked about Russian collusion, conspiracy theories, and lies, and demanded investigations nonstop into Russian collusion.
Okay, she was already a member of Congress when she said that right there. So was she saying that she asked the internet if the election was stolen, but she was just curious she was just asking for a friend, is what she was doing? How about when she said to show up on January 6th?
Support Congress, Republicans in Congress in this effort. We also need you to support our president. On January 6th, if you're able, there are going to be possibly 1 million or more people coming to Washington to be there for this historic event. If you're able, I ask you to come. We definitely want your support. It's critical for everyone to show up and show the nation who we are. We aren't a people that are going to go quietly into the night. We are not a people that are going to be thrust into socialism without stopping it. So thank you so much. I want to thank all of you for your support, and I want to let you know I will always take on the fight because I believe in it.
She believes in the fight. That said that everyone was going to get arrested on the 6th of January, that the president would declare martial law, and he would arrest everyone. She was all about it. Listen, this is a lie. The woman has shown you who she is over and over and over. Believe her. Believe her. That's all I'm asking, is for you to believe what she says, who she is. She has shown it to you. Now, Kevin is telling you he doesn't even know what QAnon is, or QAnon. He can't even say it. He can't even make himself say, okay, he doesn't know what it is. Might I direct your attention to all those Q signs that were at all those Trump rallies that were there on the day of the insurrection, on the day of the bloody coup? Might I direct your attention to all of the people that wear Q T-shirts and carry Q flags and carry put Q all over their hold it up? I mean, what is wrong with him? Does he think his supporter? I don't know. Does he think we as a country are stupid or blind or believe him? I mean, what is the deal? What is the deal? That was the most bizarre thing I'd ever. And now, she did go to the floor today. Oh, I'm so sorry. I was just curious. I just needed answers. I turned to the internet. It was a mistake. I was just asking for a friend. I was just asking for a friend whether or not, 9/11 was a hoax. I was just asking for a friend if the school shootings were a false flag operation, because I listen to Alex Jones nonstop every single day and send him money. I was just asking if there were really such a thing as Jewish space lasers that were being fired off by the Rothschild Jewish cabal to set off wildfires in California. I needed answers to these pressing questions, so I went on. That's what she actually said. Now, don't forget this. She's been fundraising off of this the whole time.
All things Randi at RandiRhodes.com.
Go for launch.
Speaking truth to power, the Randi Rhodes Show.
Where do you come down on this idea of whether she should be stripped of committee assignments?
Well, rather than me talking about what she may have said, I want to hear from her. So I flew down to Georgia with her on Air Force One, had a very pleasant experience with her. Very, very cordial, very pleasant. So here's what I think she owes herself, quite frankly, her constituents in the country. Is that true? Was she misquoted? Was she taken out of context? I want to know, does she still believe that Sandy Hook's was fake, that 9/11 was an inside job, that there's a Jewish laser in the sky starting fires in California? I don't know. I know how words can be twisted. I know how you can be taken out of context. But rather than me talking about her, I would like her to be definitive. Did you believe that then? Mm-hmm. If you've changed your mind, why? What do you believe now? Then I will comment. But I'm going to give her a chance to come out and say definitively what she believes about all these events.
Huh? So her posts that she put up on Instagram, her posts that she put up on Facebook, her posts that she put up repeatedly, like the ones that I just played you, which she posted after she was elected and sworn in, asking a mob to come on January 6th, saying the election was stolen on November 3rd, and that we can't, and she puts in air quotes, we cannot peacefully transfer power to Joe Biden because Donald Trump won in a landslide. He thinks maybe she took herself out of context when she held the phone camera to her own face and then proactively posted those things. Oh, these Republicans, they are so vile. I can't even. Kevin with a Q, McCarthy, he can't even pronounce QAnon. What is it? Quonon? I don't even know what it is. I don't know what it is. He missed all the giant Q signs with just one letter Q. He missed all of the conspiracy there. Lindsey Graham, he also, I'm not aware. I need to hear from her. What are you, not online? You tweet all the freaking time. What's wrong with you? You talk to her on Air Force One. Since when, everybody, do freshman members of the House of Representatives get rides on Air Force One with the President of the United States and the chairman of the Judiciary Committee? When has that ever happened? This is just, it's madness. It's crazy. And if they were on a flight on Air Force One together with the president and Lindsey Graham and Marjorie Taylor Greene, a freshman who just was elected, tell me something. What did you talk about? What did you talk about? Because she's pretty much a conspiracy theorist, okay? And now you got this other guy. You got Senator Kevin Cramer from, North or South Dakota. I'm telling you, there should not be two. There should be just one Dakota. 1 Dakota, 2 senators. That's it. That's all I want from you. But anyway, Kevin Cramer said he can't tell you whether or not she's posting these things because we've had such bad weather, and he's not able to watch television. And Tommy Tuberville, who is an ardent Trump supporter, when he was asked about her, he said, quote, "Travel in this weather, it's been a little rough looking at news," or whatever. It's snowing, so his internet doesn't work, or it's windy, so his electricity is out. What in the world are these freaking fools saying out loud that we're supposed to believe? What is it that they're saying that you believe? Anyone who believes them. Do you really believe Lindsey Graham has no idea what she's been saying, spouting, posting, tweeting, liking on Facebook, retweeting, sharing over the last 2 years? No one in the Republican Party knows. Maybe she's been taken. Please give me a freaking break. All the freedom crackers in the House, all of them. Andy Biggs from Arizona, okay, Gosar, freaking Matt Gaetz, Kevin. All these Tea Party remnants who have morphed into the Freedom Crackers and now into the Q Party, they all know what sells, okay? And they have all, especially her. I love how sorry she is now. She's so sorry. She was just curious. She was fundraising on her conspiracy theories and her refusal to apologize for believing them right up until yesterday. And you know what? The only reason, you know what they talked about last night? You know what the real conversation was. Marge, how much money do you think you can raise off of, continuing on with this Q thing? Because, thank you for the $85,000 that you just put into the Republican, congressional caucus, bank account. Thank you for that. Because you were able to raise so much damn money, we're going to consider you, we're going to consider getting your back here. But what we need for you to do is go on the floor, because nobody, is going to watch this, and just say that you were just curious about all this. And then, it'll be like the soothing ointment on the oozing pussy gravy sore that, you created and Q created and these conspiracies created, causing the Capitol to be attacked. They all think it's useful. Some of them, like her, believe it. But the others of them find it a great fundraiser, great tool to raise money from the grassroots. Don't you know that? See, Donald Trump sat on the TV for months saying it was fraud, it was rigged, it was stolen, it was going to be stolen, and then it was stolen, and then, screaming about vote flipping and hiring lawyers that, stood on the TV and said, Hugo Chavez is doing this. He's been dead since 2013. Oh, by the way, Smartmatic has just joined Dominion. Smartmatic just filed a $2.7 billion lawsuit against Fox News. Yes. $2.7 billion. Now, that may sound like a hell of a lot of money, but I want you to understand where these numbers come from, okay? Why $2.7 billion? Because Fox News profits last year based on spreading these lies and conspiracy theories was $3 billion. $3 billion. So $2.7 billion would be almost all their profit that they made on spreading these conspiracy theories and these lies about the voting machines, about Dominion and about Smartmatic. You know what's really interesting about Smartmatic? They only serve one county. Smartmatic was only used in LA, in Los Angeles County. That's it. But Sidney Powell stood there and told lies about Smartmatic, and so now they filed against Rudy, they filed against Sidney Powell, they filed against Fox News. They're filing against they filed against Lou Dobbs, Maria Bartiromo. Oh yeah, this is a beautiful thing because these people freaking lied, and they know that they lied. It was great for viewership. When OAN and Newsmax started lying, their ratings went up. So Fox News joined them in the big lie for ratings, for profit. And so they made $3 billion. The lawsuit is for $2.7. Good luck to you. Good luck to you lawyers representing Smartmatic. I just, this is, it's out of control, and we've been infiltrated.
Call in, connect. To speak to Randi, call 561-270-3844. 561-270-3844.
All right, here she is. This is her explanation for posting that everything that had to do with school shootings was false flag. September 11th didn't really happen. There was no plane at the Pentagon. The idea that the election was stolen. The idea that QAnon was a patriot. Right. This is her explanation.
Just watching CNN or Fox News, I may not find the truth, and so what I did is I started looking up things on the internet, asking questions like most people do every day.
And 4chan.
Use Google. And I stumbled across something, and this was at the end of 2017, called QAnon.
4chan.
Well, these posts were mainly about this Russian collusion information. A lot of it was some of what I would see on the news at night, and I got very interested in it. So I posted about it on Facebook. I read about it. I talked about it. I asked questions about it. And then more information came from it. But you see, here's the problem. Throughout 2018, because I was upset about things and didn't trust the government, really, because the people here weren't doing the things that I thought they should be doing for us, the things that I just told you I cared about. And I want you to know, a lot of Americans don't trust our government, and that's sad. The problem with that is, though, is I was allowed to believe things that weren't true, and I would ask questions about them and talk about them. And that is absolutely what I regret. Because if it weren't for the Facebook post and comments that I liked in 2018, I wouldn't be standing here today, and you couldn't point a finger and accuse me of anything wrong. Because I've lived a very good life that I'm proud of, my family's proud of, my husband's proud of, my children are proud of. And that's what my district elected me for.
Now, your district elected you because you were communicating on 4chan about stolen elections and fraud and fake conspiracies that the entire Republican Party was very willing to quietly back. When Donald Trump was asked to denounce QAnon, what did he say? They like me, and they're very much against the pedophilia. That's what he said. I was just Q adjacent in 4chan. I was just asking questions on the internet because I don't trust CNN and I don't trust Fox News. And I want you to know that America doesn't trust what they see on television. You know why? I'll show you why. Here's why this is so sick. All right. This is why people don't trust what's on TV.
We have so much evidence, I feel like it's coming in through a fire hose.
Wow. So, Sydney, you feel that you will be able to prove this. Do you have the software in your possession? Do you have the hardware in your possession? How will you prove this, Sydney?
Well, I've got lots of ways to prove it, Maria, but I'm not going to tell on national TV what all we have. I just can't do that.
Okay, but you have a small time frame here. The elections are supposed to be certified in early December. Do you believe that you can present this to the courts and be successful within this just couple of weeks?
Well, let me put it this way. First of all, I never say anything I can't prove. Secondly, the evidence is coming in so fast, I can't even process it all. Millions of Americans have written, I would say by now, definitely hundreds of thousands have stepped forward with their different experiences of voter fraud. But this is a massive election fraud, and I'm very concerned it involved not only Dominion and its Smartmatic software, but that the software essentially was used by other election machines also. It's the software that was the problem. Even their own manual explains how votes can be wiped away. They can it's like drag and drop Trump votes to a separate folder and then delete that folder. It's absolutely brazen how people bought this system and why they bought this system. In fact, every state that bought Dominion for sure should have a criminal investigation, or at least a serious investigation of the officers in the states who bought the software. We've even got evidence of some kickbacks, essentially.
She had no evidence. The court, 60 courts, asked for evidence, and they all wrote that you need facts and evidence, and neither are present here. She had no evidence. She was just lying, and that's why she got sued today by Smartmatic for $2.7 billion, and that's why she got sued by Dominion for a similar amount for being, and now, you know, Janine Pirro, Maria Bartiromo, Lou Dobbs, they're all, everyone at Fox that had her on or had Rudy Giuliani on or these crazy people on, and that led them to believe that the election was stolen and that you can't peacefully transfer power, which is what she said.
This is an important time in our history. We can't allow this just to be gone, you know, just to let it go. You can't allow it to just transfer power peacefully like Joe Biden wants and allow him to become our president.
But, you know, that was after she was elected. But, you know, it didn't happen after she was elected. This was, it was all 2018. It was 2017, 18. And she was just curious, asking the internet questions in 4chan, and 8chan. Yeah, I mean, this is a 276-page complaint that Smartmatic is arguing here, that Giuliani and Powell created a story about Smartmatic, and that Fox joined in this conspiracy to defame and disparage Smartmatic for its election technology and software. They say that the story, the lie that they kept telling, turned neighbor against neighbor. The story led a mob to attack the Capitol. And right there is one of its congressional supporters, Marjorie Taylor Greene, who, once she was sworn in and took the oath to protect this country from all enemies, foreign and domestic, urged people to go and participate in overthrowing our government. Sorry, not buying today, Marge. Albion in California.
Hey, Randy, I just wanted to share my little bit with Kevin with the Q years ago. A group of us protesters, with the country was just about to invade Iraq. And so we showed up at his office here in town. He was in the office. We knew his hours. And he didn't come out, but one of our guys went around the back of the building, and there was Kevin with the Q taking off in his car. Yeah, so just a little backgrounder.
Yeah, he's a little coward is what he is. And you know what? He claims to be the head of the GOP in the House, right? And he refuses to make a decision, refuses to do the right thing and take this crazy crackpot. I mean, the Education Committee, how obvious is that?
Yeah, they all deserve each other, and we deserve none of them.
That's exactly right. That's exactly right. We don't. But this is what lying through massive media outlets, this is what conspiracy radio, conspiracy television, OAN, Newsmax, Fox News, this is what this conspiracy media has brought down upon us. It's so unfair. We have serious problems. We have serious work to do, and we can't do it because of them.
This is the Randi Rhodes Show. To speak with Randi, dial 561-270-3844. That's 561-270-3844.
So how dangerous, just how dangerous is this three-named congresswoman you probably have never heard of? Well, so dangerous that in the name of democracy, she must be expelled tonight from the Congress. That's what they're saying. No one is claiming voter fraud here. The member in question was elected just months ago with 75% of the vote. Now, that's roughly the same percentage of the vote that Nancy Pelosi got out in San Francisco. So there's no question that her voters very much wanted her to represent them in Washington. On the other hand, what do her voters have to do with democracy? That's not how democracy works. In the new democracy, CNN gets the veto. If cable news doesn't like your views, you have to leave Congress. That's the rule. The test is entirely ideological. You don't actually have to harm anyone to lose your job. This new member of Congress has barely even voted. She just got there the other day. But CNN says she has bad opinions, therefore she's the greatest threat we face.
No, that is not at all what's going on in Congress. They're saying that a woman who denies school shootings are a real thing should not be on the Education Committee. And they're trying to remove her from the Education Committee. You see that whole thing right there? That was just chock full of lies. Number one, she's been fundraising off of her refusal to back down from her support of Q, because Q is a patriot, right? So that's number one. Number two, she honestly told everybody to come to the Capitol for Insurrection Day. She literally spread lies using her office as a duly elected congresswoman to tell people to overthrow this government, which, according to our Constitution, means she has to be expelled, and only a 2/3 vote by the House could stop her from being expelled. If you're a textualist, Tucker, if you actually read the damn Constitution, and you don't have to read the whole thing, my friend, just go to Amendment number 14, Section 3. Read that all the way to the end. It's just like 3 sentences. I think you can handle. Oh my God, the lying that they do. The lying is insane. It's truly unforgivable. And I'm so happy that they are finally on the end on the defendant end of defamation lawsuits. For some, listen, back in the day, these defense contractors sued the hell out of me, right? I won because I wasn't lying. I won because I was demonstrably telling the truth about torture going on with these contractors inserting themselves into the chain of command. Okay, so I prevailed. It took, 3 to 5 years of my life. I'm so happy that they are about to go through every single thing I went through, but they don't have the truth on their side. They are lying to their audience every single day. Every day, and inflaming an anger in this country about something that did not happen. This election was not stolen.
The president's path to victory here, as you and the legal team see it, if you could give us just that canvas very quickly.
Well, yes, Lou. The entire election, frankly, in all the swing states should be overturned, and the legislatures should make sure that the electors are selected for Trump. And it's going to have to follow the constitutional provisions that it be decided according to the amendment.
She doesn't know what she's talking, according to the amendment. What amendment? What are you talking about? She's just, like, I tell you, I'm guessing, calling in. I don't know. How else are you going to explain it? It might be a defense. I was so drunk, I had no idea what I was saying. No, they're all going to have to be defendants now. And they're going to... Now, Fox News has this really peculiar way of defending their hosts. You know what they tell the court with a straight face the lawyers do? Instead of proving that what they said was true, therefore not defamatory, they argue no reasonable man would believe anything they hear on Lou Dobbs' show. No reasonable man would believe anything that Tucker Carlson spews. No reasonable man would believe Laura Ingraham really thinks that hydroxychloroquine works. No reasonable man would believe any of the things they're saying. And therefore, if there's no reasonable man that believes them, they can say whatever they want. That's sick, and that's a new thing. I have never seen that as a defense for defamation. Defamation, the defense has always been, I told the truth. Period. It's a complete defense. Wow. This is some strange stew they made, okay? This is like the weirdest concoction of mung I've ever seen them whip up. And they've been whipping up a lot of crap for a really, really long time, but I'm so happy that they're going to have to fill out interrogatories, they're going to have to go to depositions, they're going to have to produce anything they relied on to make these stories, to tell these stories to their viewers. They're going to have to call producers, they're going to have to see paperwork, what were they looking at? When Rudy Giuliani said he had all these affiants, all these affidavits, where were they? Did you see them? Same thing, you know, I mean, it's just like amazing. And the thing with Hunter Biden, oh my God. Remember, Tucker kept on peddling this blind Mac repairman who had a little shop right there. And did you ever see him? The guy wears a little beret with a little pom-pom on it. Very interesting dude. And this is who you'd want to go to for, you know, information about Hunter Biden. This guy with his little store, with his beret and his pom-pom. Anyway, he kept on peddling this story and peddling this story, and you'll see, and you'll see, and you'll see. The guy's got the goods. He's got the porn. It's on the computer. It's on the computer. And then all of a sudden, it was put up or shut up time. And what did Tucker Carlson say? Hunter Biden's a friend of mine. I don't want to cause him any harm, so I'm not even going to show you anything. Wow. And the audience for that show just forgets that there had been a steady drumbeat of Hunter Biden's a pedophile, and so was Joe, for months. They just, forget it. And they give him a new conspiracy, a new BS. And this one, Sidney Powell, she's got pages, reams of it. Rudy Giuliani, Mike Lindell, oh my God. I don't know if you saw this or not, but this is so special. Mike Lindell went on Newsmax the other day. He's not done peddling crap. He's not done saying he's got all kinds of, papers and things that they apparently forgot to show the court when they had 60 different cases in which to file any of these pieces of paper. They just neglected to do it. I don't know why. It just slipped his mind. Don't remember that I had them. Now I remember that I don't know what the deal is. Newsmax is so scared of getting sued as well that they read a prepared statement to Mike Lindell. No. And then an anchor, one of the anchors, literally jumped off screen. He jumped out of his own chair because he didn't want to be sued. Watch this.
The censorship from social media, of course, continues. Twitter apparently now has permanently suspended the My Pillow Company account, the company account, after its CEO, Mike Lindell, used the page, they say, to continue posting. This comes as Twitter permanently banned Lindell's personal account last week. Joining us now to discuss is the founder and CEO of My Pillow and the author of the book, What Are the Odds? Mike Lindell. Mike, thank you so much for joining us, and welcome. So
well,
what happened? What happened with your Twitter account and the company page?
Well, first, mine was taken down because we have all the election fraud with these Dominion machines. We have 100% proof. And then when they took it down about 3 weeks ago, and then when I put it back up, my personal, it was a
Mike, thank you very much. Mike, you're talking about machines that we at Newsmax have not been able to verify any of those kinds of allegations. We just want to let people know that there's nothing substantive that we've seen. And let me read you something there. While there were some clear evidence of some cases of vote fraud and election irregularities, the election results in every state were certified, and Newsmax accepts the results as legal and final. The courts have also supported that view. So we wanted to talk to you about canceling culture, if you will. We don't want to relitigate the allegations that you're making, Mike, because we understand where you are. So let me ask you this. Do you think that this should be temporary because it appears to be permanent? Could you make an argument that it is temporary?
What?
Could you make an argument that this could be a temporary banning rather than permanent?
No, I want it to be a permanent because you know what? They did this because I'm revealing all the evidence on Friday of all the election fraud with these machines. So I'm sorry if you think it's not
Mike,
real.
can I ask our producers, can we get out of here, please? I don't want to have to keep going over this.
Actually,
we at Newsmax have not been able to verify any of those allegations that you're
Mike, hold on a second. Everybody hold on a second. Mike, hold on 1 second. Let's talk a little bit.
Mary had a little man. The fault. We believe that all men are created equal. To the magnificent mosaic that is America. From radio beacon to radio beacon. I have a dream today. Change has come to America. Believe me. Help is on the way.
Knock, knock. Who's there?
It's a figment of your imagination.
Randi Rhodes Show. Turn up your mind.
This is stunning, heartbreaking, infuriating, and the most unpatriotic acts I can even imagine for people in this country to have participated in any way, shape, or form. And I want the American public to know right now that we will not be intimidated. American patriots are fed up with the corruption from the local level to the highest level of our government, and we are going to take this country back. We are not going to be intimidated. We are not going to back down. We are going to clean this mess up now. President Trump won by a landslide. We are going to prove it, and we are going to reclaim the United States of America for the people who vote for freedom.
You mean insurgents, not patriots, don't you? You mean insurgents, don't you, Sydney? Don't you? So she's being sued for billions of dollars. 1.3 billion from Dominion and 2.7 billion. A lawsuit's been filed by Smartmatic, and they have filed against Fox News. They filed against Lou Dobbs and Jeanine Pirro and what's her face? I can't even remember all of them. There's so many liars on that channel. It's just insane. It's just insane. And then that language gets repeated by crazy Marjorie Taylor Greene, who says he won in a landslide.
This is an important time in our history. We can't allow this just to be gone, just to let it go. You can't allow it to just transfer power peacefully like Joe Biden wants and allow him to become our president, because he did not win this election. It's being stolen, and the evidence is there. The mainstream media for 4 years talked about Russian collusion, conspiracy theories, and lies, and demanded investigations nonstop into Russian collusion.
Which the Bipartisan Intelligence Committee, headed by Republican Senator, right, Richard Burr, put out a report saying that Donald Trump encouraged and welcomed Russian interference in the 2016 election. That had happened, that he stood on a stage, that he said, Russia, if you're listening, I hope you can find, because he was welcoming and encouraging and accepting Russian help. And let me tell you something. This country has been involved in a psyops operation. That's why, everybody goes, well, how did so many Americans get sucked into this crazy theory? How did so many Americans get so wrapped up into hating their own country and believing some 4chan, 8chan chat room over, the results of an election, which, by the way, were called on election night for Joe Biden by Fox News. How did that happen? It's a psyops operation. This is a psychological, propaganda operation that people in autocratic societies understand exactly how they work. And Donald Trump not only allowed it to happen here, but encouraged it to happen here and participated in it and advanced it and foisted it on innocent American people who were very frustrated because the government was in Republican hands, couldn't sell its agenda for the American people because it didn't have one. It only had an agenda for the wealthiest Americans, for the donor class. It only had an agenda for, very, very large corporations who contribute through shadow money, PAC money, dark money, money from the NRA, which is such a fraudulent operation. It doesn't even exist anymore. Right? And they couldn't sell that to the American people, so they sold them this idea that there was a deep state that was out to get them. Yeah, they're called the Republican Party, is what it is. But they needed to point their finger at somebody else. Now, 3 fingers were clearly pointing back at them. But they literally engaged in a psychological operation, in a brainwashing, if you will, if you must, if you may. And, you know, America's no innocent little thing when it comes to brainwashing. I mean, lots of industries do it. You know, the tobacco industry did it. They brainwashed millions and millions of Americans, including me, into believing that, you know, tobacco was relaxing, tobacco was soothing, tobacco would help you concentrate, tobacco would relieve stress, it would do. And it's exactly the opposite. It causes stress. It causes self-loathing. Right? And they did the same damn thing with the Republican Party's agenda. They did the same. They brainwashed people into believing that the Republican Party's agenda was good for you. And then when it was so frustrating and you were broke and a freaking pandemic and a mass casualty event broke out, they just said, no. It was them doing it to you. It was the Chinese doing it to you, or it was the Democrats doing it to you, or it's the this, or it's the... No. And the election was stolen by Democrats, even though there were no Democrats that stole anything from anybody in any way, in any shape, or in any form. It's just brainwashing, and it's very, very devastating to see it happen here. But I will tell you, we are about to have a trial. I don't know, the makeup of it yet. I will tell you this. Jamie Raskin, who you know is the lead impeachment manager, wrote a letter to Donald Trump today and asked him if he would testify. If he is so sure of himself that this election was stolen, if he is so sure of himself that the facts that he could present would somehow make his insurgency almost understandable, never permissible. Mob rule is never okay. Overthrowing our government is never okay. But if he believed that the election was stolen, come forward and show us what you were relying on to make these claims. Here's what he says in the letter, Jamie. He said, 2 days ago, you filed an answer, on paper, right, in which you denied many factual allegations set forth in the article of impeachment. You have thus attempted to put critical facts at issue, notwithstanding the clear and convincing, overwhelming evidence of your constitutional offense. But in light of your disputing these factual allegations, I write to invite you to provide testimony under oath, either before or during the Senate impeachment trial, concerning your conduct on January 6, 2021. We would propose that you provide your testimony, of course, including cross-examination, as early as Monday, February 8th, the day before the trial is supposed to start, February 9th on Tuesday, right? And not later than Thursday, February 11th. So they're giving him the entire week to appear under oath, and because he's disputing factual allegations about the election being free and fair, come and show us what you relied on to agitate the American people and create a constitutional violation of law. He said, we'd be pleased to arrange such testimony at a mutually convenient time and place. And then he says, hey, listen, other presidents have done it. Gerald Ford did it. Bill Clinton did it. They provided testimony while in office. And last year, the Supreme Court held that you were not immune from the legal process while you were serving as president. So there's little doubt that you can testify in these proceedings because you're not president anymore. And he said, indeed, whereas a sitting president might raise concerns about distraction from their duties in office, this man golfed for the last, 5 months of his presidency. He said the concern is inapplicable here because, you're not president anymore. And then he said, if you decline this invitation, we reserve any and all rights, including the right to establish a trial, that your refusal to testify supports a strong adverse inference regarding your actions and inaction on January 6th. There's no word in here about a subpoena, but I will tell you there's a response now.
things Randy at RandyRhodes.com.
Go for launch.
Speaking truth to power, the Randi Rhodes Show.
He says, Jamie Raskin writes in this letter that other former presidents who were presidents at the time agreed to testify, including Gerald Ford when he was president. President Bill Clinton gave testimony under oath. They say Donald Trump, as a former president, has no reason not to testify in this case. And they're inviting him to come as soon as Monday before the Senate. And they're saying they want it to occur between Monday and Thursday of next week. And they want an answer by the end of this week. Now, one thing that they don't say in this letter is what they will do if he does not agree to testify. One thing that they do say is that if you decline this invitation, we reserve any and all rights, including the right to establish at trial that your refusal to testify supports a strong adverse inference regarding your actions on January 6, 2021. Of course, the day of the deadly riot here, he's charged, the former president is, for inciting an insurrection on that day. Oh, God. So they're saying that we could use it against him if he doesn't agree to testify, but they could also subpoena him. The Senate, by a simple majority vote, could subpoena Donald Trump to come and testify. And Jamie Raskin, our colleague Jeremy Herb, just tried to ask Jamie Raskin if he would subpoena Donald Trump. They would seek a subpoena for him if Trump declines an invitation to testify. He declined to answer the question. And I talked to some Senate Democrats just now who are open to the idea of issuing a subpoena to Donald Trump. Richard Blumenthal, who would vote on a subpoena if it did come to it, said if the House managers want it, he said it would carry a lot of weight with me. So I expect that to be the prevailing attitude of most Senate Democrats, and 50 Senate Democrats in the chamber with the tie-breaking vote. They could issue a subpoena if the Democrats wanted to go that way.
Okay, so Jamie Raskin writes a letter, invites the president to testify. He's not the president anymore. There is absolutely no objection. I know even current presidents, while they were sitting, testified. Why won't you? You're not even a president. You don't have anything else on your agenda that would be, presidential. That could be interrupted by your appearing. So come and appear and go ahead and show us what you relied on to make these factual statements that the election was stolen from you. Come and tell us, show us, we're open. Now, the legal team for the president, this mob lawyer, Sean, and Bruce Castor, who refused to prosecute Bill Cosby, who's in jail now. Good judgment as a prosecutor, don't you think? Yeah, passing on that. So he said, we're in receipt of your latest public relations stunt. Really? You think that an insurrection on the Capitol and a trial for the president who incited it is a stunt? Wow, these lawyers, they got some learning to do over here about, insurrections in this country, how they've not happened since 1814. Anyway, they're calling the insurrection and Trump's, incitement of it, the trial to address that he did it, a stunt. Isn't that fabulous? Yeah. As you certainly know, there is no such thing as a negative inference. These people cannot spell. They cannot spell. The word is inference, adverse inference, meaning the jury can draw a negative conclusion and be told that they can draw a negative conclusion from the fact that you won't defend yourself, that you won't appear, that you won't be sworn, that you won't give testimony. You won't say what you relied on to make these ridiculous false claims about an entire nation conspiring against you, to the point where you assembled all these people in Washington to tell them again, after months of telling them, something was stolen from them. Their country was stolen from them. Your royal ass holiness was stolen from them, right? And that you need to fight, or you won't have a country anymore. Anyway, they say, you certainly know there is no such thing as a negative, and they say interference. It's inference. They couldn't spell United States. They spelled Unitas States. Oh, my God. You know why? You know why they're so lazy? I'm going to tell it to you over and over again. Because the jury is nullified. The jury is rigged. It's a runaway jury. This is what mob lawyers count on. Rigged juries. And this one knows the jury's rigged. This one knows everybody has already said their intention is not to convict the president, even though they were victims in this crime. They were witnesses to this crime. They and their staff and the custodial staff and the Capitol Police, victims of Donald Trump's outrageous lies that incited an insurrection, even on that day when he stood there in front of them, called them all together after months and months of lying to them, and said, you need to go to the Capitol. I'll be with you. Why do you think Donald Trump didn't go with them? Anybody have a good idea of why he didn't go with them when he said he would go with them? Is it because he's just, garden variety liar? Almost said lawyer. Same thing. Sorry. Is it because he's just a liar? No, it's because he knew there'd be violence. And he wanted to watch it on TV. And we know that because there's smoking gun documents that clearly show that the National Guard was told, don't show up that day. They were told, you can't show up that day. You don't have permission to show up that day. Anybody that does get assigned to anything on that day is going to be assigned to traffic duty on that day and be unarmed on that day. See what I mean? So they're calling a trial for this man who did this to us a publicity stunt. And then they assert something that is so bizarre. They say, your letter only confirms what is known to everyone. You cannot prove your allegations against the 45th president of the United States, who is now a private citizen. Oh, I'll bet they can. I think the videos, the actual footage proves it. From the rally, from the day before the rally, from Rudy, trial by combat, from Donald Trump. I hope they mash this up. I hope they really do. That in that speech ahead of the insurrection where he says he's going to go with them, but he doesn't go with them because he knows there's going to be violence. That's why he doesn't go, because he's a coward and he's a chicken. But I hope they mash up all the times he said fight, because it's 20 times in that speech he says fight, and only one time he says the word peace. And that is what they call plausible deniability. This is what Donald Trump understands. He talks on both sides of an issue all the time. All the time. He'll praise white supremacists and then he'll say he's the least racist person you know. Do you know what I'm saying? He does it all the time. It's plausible deniability. So that people who hear him say the horrible thing over and over again, when they're defending him, they can go to the one time he said something counter to that position and say, see, he said peace. See, he said he's not racist. See, that's what he's learned. So they're not. I don't know. They didn't say one way or the other whether he wants to testify. They just said publicity stunt and you can't prove you can't. I mean, a lot of bluster, but no definitive answer. So I think we need to say what Donald Trump is. He's a coward. He's a chicken. He's afraid.
Call in, connect. To speak to Randi, call 561-270-3844. 561-270-3844.
Again, we're here to support and defend the Constitution of the United States. The world witnessed the incitement that the president caused to incite a insurrection against our government, against our Capitol, against members of Congress, with the use of force and violence. For us to, why bother? Why bother? Ask our founders, why bother? Ask those who wrote the Constitution. Ask Abraham Lincoln. Ask anyone who cares about our democracy why we are bothering. You cannot go forward until you have justice.
Exactly. Justice must be done here. We have a president of the United States that called people based on a conspiracy and lies to fight. To fight. He told them to fight. We just had a guy, I don't know, this happens all the time. A lot of them are chicken. crap, okay? So they'll call up and they aggravate Brett, right? They go around and around with Brett, who's simply running the board and answering the phone, putting you on hold, and telling me your name and where you're calling from. That's it. So Dan starts going off on Brett again. You know, she's lying. Yeah. Okay, what'd she lie about? He didn't know. He said, all right, I'm going to put you on hold, get your thoughts together, I'll come back to you. Came back after a minute in that break just now and said, okay, what do you want to say? What are your thoughts? The president told us to fight, and that's what we did. Exactly. That's exactly the point, Dan. The president told you to go there and overthrow your government, and that's exactly what people did. And that is why he's on trial. Dan, that's not free speech. You see, free speech is private citizens are protected from government intrusion when they speak. But government officials like the President of the United States swears an oath to protect and defend the Constitution. See, it's a different thing. And so he is the government. And when he preaches a violent overthrow of our government, he can be held responsible for it. You keep standing all these constitutional issues on their head. Joseph in Oklahoma City.
Hi, how you doing? Great show, as always.
Thank you.
One thing I did want to say is, you know, they can set the rules for that Senate trial.
Yes.
Where they make that vote secret, just like they did so that Liz Cheney could keep her job. Because you know what? I think people like Graham, Cruz, some of these people that are thinking about running for president, Rubio, in 2024, I think they would vote yes to convict him to stop Trump.
Well, I think I think what they really want is Trumpism out of their hair. I think that they see where it led them. I think that they understand that Donald Trump is singularly responsible for losing the House, losing the Senate, losing the presidency in one term. And so they would like to rid themselves of the man that caused them to lose the House, the Senate, and the presidency in one term. They would love to get rid of him.
But they also don't want to be on record.
Well, it's not the record. It's not the record that scares them. It's the Dans in Wisconsin who say he told us to overthrow our government and we did it, right? That's what they're scared of. They're scared of their own voters.
Of course. And I think they would convict him if they could keep that vote secret. But the other thing I was going to mention to you is the one thing that separates Marjorie Greene from the bottom feeder morons that went into the Capitol is she has permission to be there. That's the only difference. And it's a chilling thought. That's the only difference between Marjorie Greene and the lunatics that went inside the Capitol is she has permission to be there.
Yeah.
And that's frightening. But
it is frightening. I can't imagine working in a place where, the person in the office next to me has threatened to kill me, would take pleasure in my death, and now wants to carry weapons to work, and I have no recourse?
Insane.
Ridiculous. Ridiculous. Ridiculous.
I remain profoundly concerned about House Republicans' leadership acceptance of extreme conspiracy theorists. Particularly disturbing is their eagerness to reward a QAnon adherent, a 9/11 truther, a harasser of child survivors of school shootings, and to give them valued committee positions, including who could imagine they would put such a person on the Education Committee.
It was in your face.
Today, the House will vote to remove Representative Greene from her seat on Education and Labor and the Budget Committees. It's just so unfortunate. You would think that the Republican leadership in the Congress would have some sense of responsibility to this institution, as they did when they did not seat Representative King of Iowa 2 years ago. For some reason, they have chosen not to go down that path, even though Mr. Hoyer gave the leader, McCarthy, sufficient notice that this was a path we would follow.
Right. So in the House, they allowed them to secretly vote for Liz Cheney, and 61 Republicans didn't. 145 did, but it was a secret vote. They were protected. No one had to know that the Republicans were supporting a person who voted to impeach Donald Trump. That was a secret vote. Well, they could have done another secret vote last night on Marjorie, right? They could have. Steny Hoyer, who's the majority whip, told McCarthy, Kevin with a Q, told him, you handle it. This is your caucus. You're the leader. Be a leader. You handle it. Take her off these committees. Take her off education, for God's sake. The woman doesn't believe school shootings are real. Take her off. Take her off the budget committee. You do that, we'll walk away. We'll let it lie. She's here for a year and a half. She's going to have to run again. We'll leave it alone. McCarthy wouldn't do it. So now they're having a vote in the House to remove her from her committees. And everybody's going to have to be on the record. And no matter what you do as a Republican today, you lose. You lose. You're checkmated. Why? Either you're voting for a conspiracy theorist who doesn't believe school shootings are real to be on the Education Committee, or you're voting against Donald Trump's favorite Congresswoman, Marjorie Taylor Greene, who's already been invited on Air Force One, who's already flown with Donald Trump, a freshman Congresswoman. Don't you get that Donald Trump is going to bottom feed? He's going to find people with backgrounds that are questionable, blackmailable people. He's going to support them so he could be the puppet master. He's going to support crazy people so he can lie through them so that they can make his crazy claims out loud on the House floor and using their official office, and he's going to pour money into their coffers to do it. He's a shadow president. So back to what the caller just said. Yes, they would love, the Senate would love to be rid of Donald Trump because he's a shadow president, a kingmaker. He's now the party of Trump, and he's going to pick people they would like. But it has to be a secret vote. You're right, because they're afraid of the voters. Their voters.
This is the Randi Rhodes Show. To speak with Randi, dial 561-270-3844. That's 561-270-3844.
With Republican members like Marjorie Taylor Greene and others, she was afraid to be in the room with them because she thought the location could be betrayed by them.
And for good reason. I shared her concern. You know, in that room, there was an announcement made by the respective caucus chairs, Hakeem Jeffries and Liz Cheney, that members in that room were live tweeting and otherwise doing interviews revealing our location, despite having been instructed for obvious reasons that frankly should not have required instruction, not to disclose the whereabouts of 200 members of Congress who had just narrowly escaped a massacre in the House chamber minutes before. You cannot trust a number of these people, and that is an extraordinary thing to say about your colleagues in the United States Congress. But the fact is that a number of these people, in addition to having incited that violent insurrection that we saw, likely were coordinating more explicitly with these people, and the investigation is ongoing, and every day we learn more about the level of involvement of a number of our colleagues.
Wow, that's some frightening stuff. That's Mondaire Jones. He's a freshman Republican. They were all in a room together, and Liz Cheney, who voted to impeach the president for inciting this insurrection, was in the same room, and they all observed that there were members of the Republican Party, House members, who were tweeting locations, who were tweeting where AOC, where Nancy Pelosi, where other members were taken to for their safety during the bloody coup. And there's a question about whether or not Marjorie Taylor Greene and Lauren Boebert and some of these freshmen that just came in who were spouting a whole lot of these conspiracy theories and saying exactly what the conspiracy theorists were telling them to say, that Donald Trump won this election in a landslide. You can't peacefully transfer power. It was stolen. You need to fight, or you won't have a country anymore. They did it, and they were aided and abetted by members, sworn members, who are tweeting out the location, who are tweeting out direction. Oh my God. Listen, if that turns out to be true, we're going to have to like RICO Act our whole Congress for being a corrupt, racketeering, influenced, corrupt organization. The whole Republican Party is going to have to be RICO'd. You get that? This is so bad and so dangerous and so undeserved, so uncalled for. We had a free and fair election. Everyone knows that. It's unbelievable to me. It's just amazing the amount of psychological twisting that can be done to literally an ordinary person. You know, I was listening to, I don't know if I pulled it or not. There was this lady, I don't know if you saw it, but she was on, they're interviewing a whole bunch of ex-QAnon believers on CNN now, like their exit interviews from this cult, and they're asking them, how did it happen? And some of them were like, you know, they never voted in their lives. Others of them were voting, they were Bernie voters, believe it or not, or they were voting for, you know, Democrats all their lives. Some of them, like I said, never voted, never. But they were reached on the internet with algorithms that told them lies about the government, that told them lies about elections, stealing and theft and da-da-da-da-da and everything. And they were sucked in to the point where they became a cult member. And they were so agitated by these lies. They were so completely disoriented by this disinformation campaign that they were willing to literally end their family relationships with friends that they had had for 20 years, relationships with their husbands or their wives, relationships at work. I mean, it's mind-blowing. It's like an addiction, that kind of brainwashing. It's so crazy. But we know it works. We know propaganda works, and we know that this was a massive campaign, massive. And what made it easier, you know, but back in the day when they did propaganda, they used to do it through pamphlets, you know, when we had the John Birch Society and the white supremacists known as the Klan, and you had this group and that group, and, you know, they infiltrated into police and da-da-da-da. But this is so much faster because of the internet, because of algorithms, because of social media, because if you answer or like something on Facebook, you're going to get more of it. You're going to get more of it. If you follow someone on Twitter, you're going to get more like that. And it just compounds and compounds and compounds to the point where you're in a bubble of complete disorientation, just complete propaganda. Then you turn on the TV and you got conspiracy television. We have like 3 channels now. Turn on AM radio, it's all conspiracy radio. I mean, I worked in it for years. I spent my whole day debunking the hundreds of hours of conservative crap with 1 hour. You know, it's so fun. Like I had 4. I used to do 4 hours. People, why did you do 4? Because there were thousands of hours of conservative crap, and the longer I could debunk it, I was willing to do it. I was willing to sit there for 4 hours a day debunking this stuff. It's crazy. It's such an assault on our way of life. It's such an assault on justice and equal opportunity and fairness. It's such a fraud. I mean, they're not pro-life, as you know. They preside over massive casualty events without even blinking. Okay? They don't care that 5 people died in this assault. Okay, they don't care that cops had brain injuries and fractured ribs, and they don't care about that. They don't care about the blue lives. It's all a ruse, right? They care about this cult. They have been brainwashed into believing that being part of this overthrow of your government effort is exactly the opposite of what it is. Instead of you being an insurgent, an Al-Qaeda member, somebody who was radicalized on the internet, which is standard operating procedure for cults, standard operating procedure for Al-Qaeda, for ISIS. They were all radicalized online. These were ordinary people radicalized online. Instead of understanding that that's what's happened to them, they now decide, in complete conflict of their actions, that overthrowing the government is the patriotic thing to do. Wow. How powerful has this been? How powerful? The lessons learned here should be enormous. Ginormous. Lloyd in Michigan.
Hi, Randy. Thanks for playing that quote by Marjorie Taylor Greene, where she said, quote, "I was allowed to believe things that weren't true."
Allowed.
Who was allowing?
No, she
Who was
decided.
controlling her thinking?
No, she wasn't allowed. She decided. She decided to believe.
Does she have no capacity for critical thought? And given her that she's allowed to think things, who allowed her fascist terrorist threat to Nancy Pelosi? Well, that's a real right-to-life position.
Listen, she showed you who she is. Believe her. That is the best quote ever. It's just, you can never go wrong knowing that when someone shows you who they are, you need to believe them.
And then she said, 9/11 is an inside job. Well, if 9/11 was an inside job, then it was a Republican inside job.
Listen, their whole way of thinking is contaminated. And so it's the same exact thing that you get whenever you're trying to figure your way out of anything. If you put garbage in, you're going to get garbage out. You have to start with real stuff, real fact, real numbers, and then you'll get the right answer. If you start with bad information at the beginning of the solving process, you're going to get bad information on the end of the solving process, and you're never going to be able to solve your way into a better situation. You just can't. You just can't. It's garbage in, garbage out. It's one of those things. All right, so they're voting now whether or not to remove her from her committees. They're not going to expel her. And that would take a 2/3 vote of the House. Obviously, 2/3 of this Republican Party in the House voted not to certify the election. Remember that. 2/3 of the Republican Party voted not to peacefully transfer power to the lawful winner of this election. Okay, so that's what you're dealing with. Garbage in, garbage out. It's going to be a doozy of a trial next week. Seriously.